Ladies and gentlemen, before you leave, I kindly invite you to join us for the intergenerational dialogues. What I would like to tell you is about 427 young people who applied to be here today. We had 72 countries of origins that said that they needed to be in this room today. It is extremely important that we acknowledge that young people want to participate in political processes. It is important to acknowledge that we see that they are here, they have ideas, and they want to contribute to the discussions that you are making. And therefore, I would like to tell you a little bit more about the Youth Dialogue on Internet Governance, which is more fondly known in this community as YOUthDIG. YOUthDIG brings together 30 young people and are fully funded to participate in the weekend before EuroDIG and at EuroDIG. During this process, they learn about how to participate in this space and the context in which it lives in. And to design this space, we worked together with alumni, and it was also my pleasure to be invited by the Council of Europe to participate in EuroDIG in Tbilisi, Georgia. And after, I was able to return and work together with other alumni to make the program bigger and better. And so it is my pride and my honor to invite the YOUthDIG organizing team of 2025 to share their story about how they built the program, what they have achieved today, and then leave it to them to open the intergenerational dialogue. So I leave it to the YOUthDIG organizing team. Please come and join me here and share the way that you have shaped the future of how young people are going to be participate in these different dialogues. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that you warmly welcome them.
Okay, it works. Thank you very much for the introduction, Nadia. Uh, let's start from what the program was about in terms of what they learned. Actually, the 2025 YOUthDIG cohort joined a really intensive introduction to internet governance that was widely supported by the kind participation of experts, not only from the EuroDIG community, but also from other relevant bodies, for example, the Commission, but also others. Let us then thank them sincerely for their support in helping our core to navigate our dearest domain, that is internet governance, spanning from the infrastructure and the history of the internet to European digital policies, from the current impact of digital ecosystem on misinformation, on sustainability and mental health, to upcoming challenges such as quantum computing, bioinformatics, and civic tech solutions. However, YOUthDIG is not only about content, but we also encourage and empower interactive sessions and upskilling and capacity building activities through which we hope that our cohort will be capable of actively participating during the conference. And now I have to leave the floor to João.
Hello, everyone. My name is João Pedro. I'm from Portugal. I'm I'm a member of the organizing team of YOUthDIG. And as Francesco was just saying, there is indeed part of the sessions that we prepare and then facilitate throughout the YOUthDIG days. But what goes beyond it, and that really focuses on building the sense of community for the YOUthDIGgers and strengthening the group, is what we call, or enters into what we call the social program. We believe that this sense of community, this sense of group, indeed grows beyond the session hours, and I think, or we think that's exactly how it should be. So, for instance, that's why we invited the YOUthDIGgers to go and explore the lovely city of Strasbourg, that we made sure that we sit together throughout the evenings, exploring and tasting local food that I will not try to pronounce. And in essence, that's what we try to achieve. the opportunity for the group to break cultural gaps and really to leverage all this academic and professional diversity that I think it's what makes the group so much rich.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mariam, the former YOUthDIGger from last year from Georgia. And I have the privilege to talk about the general cohort vibe. That's how it's called. So basically, the YOUthDIG 2025 was so electric. They were full of energy, giving NEQ spark that lit up all the collaborations, communications, interactions with each other. The youth was from aged from 20 to 29 and covering almost all Europe, from Portugal to Azerbaijan. And we were discussing so respectfully, thoughtfully, subjects like artificial intelligence, um, algorithmic transparency, and human rights. All of us were so engaged into the collaboration, communication, and I'm truly sure that for the next several days, you will also be pleased with their company. And I will move the floor to Daniel.
Yes, thank you very much, Mariam. I would finally like to end on the YOUthDIG messages in general, like what is the way that we do them. So I would say that this is the core of the entire YOUthDIG experience. We start crafting them at a very early time, back in March when our very first webinar began. We asked all our participants to share what they think are the most pressing issues facing internet governance, what they feel passionate about sharing, because this is, in the end, their chance to be heard on the bigger stage, and they could make a contribution to the overall positive impact on internet governance. What are these messages? If you look at the EuroDIG wiki, you can see that throughout the years, there's been a whole plethora of different messages, different in many ways because they reflect the cultural zeitgeist. So for example, in 2022, when I was a participant, there was a focus on cryptocurrency, and in later years, it steered towards disinformation. So really, it's a reflection of where we are now. And in 2025, what are those messages? We'll see in a bit.
And would like to invite the moderator, Daniel Lilkoff, to come and join at the moderator stage, and then invite our intergenerational panel to come and sit here. I would like to invite Sabeta Sonelli, Ben Mishek, Tatiana Tropina, and Marta Boteman. Please come and join us on the stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here. Just a quick word before we begin. A bit of context. So at the European Dialogue on Internet Governance, we value youth participation, and we have been increasingly integrating young people into the overall EuroDIG process. For example, with YOUthDIG as one of the opportunities. Last year, we went one step further when we introduced the intergenerational dialogue, which basically gives the opportunity for some of our younger, newer community members to interact with senior peers and experts in the field. So with that being said, I believe it's time to start this discussion. So as you can see on my left-hand side, we have our YOUthDIG members, once again, Sabet Zeneli and Ben Mishek. And on my right-hand side, it's Tatiana Tropina from Internet Society and Martin Boterman from ICANN. So once again, a round of applause. To begin, probably with the YOUthDIG members is best. So you've written your messages. Would you please share to the whole group here some of the main highlights?
Hello, everyone. I'm Sabaita Zanelli. I come from Albania. And this year, I am happy to be part of YOUthDIG's team 2025. As it was mentioned by the organization team over the past few days, we've been preparing the YOUthDIG messages, and I'd like to start mentioning a topic that sparked a lot of debate on our midst. One of the key issues that we identified is how the strength and the specificity of algorithms contributes to young people's addiction to the digital space and online communities, and can even lead to polarization. In discussing this, content moderation came up as an important tool for improvement, which led then to another important debate. How do we balance content moderation and free speech? Both unchecked government control and dominance of private companies over online content can threaten democracy and freedom of expression. We believe that power over digital spaces should rest with the people through transparent and democratic governance. But how? Content moderation must protect free speech and avoid political bias. People should have access to a wide range of perspectives and control over the information that they consume. To support this, we emphasize the importance of promoting user tools like feed management and community-based moderation. These tools can enhance political engagement and awareness. However, we need to both raise awareness of the existence of these tools and expand their application. Additionally, we emphasize that solutions of different challenges in the online sphere, like exposure to harmful content, manipulative narratives, and echo chambers, are first and foremost in the offline world. Especially when it comes to young people, we believe that digital literacy education should be integrated into school curricula, which need to be updated often, keeping track with the development and innovation of technology, enabling students to recognize this information, understand how platforms shape their perception, and build resilience against potential manipulation. This requires a multi-stakeholder approach, which has also been mentioned a couple of times today throughout other inputs, including targeted training and resources for the teachers, the trainers of these young people, with the private sector also playing a key role in supporting these efforts, and parents as partners that can foster informed and safe intergenerational dialogue and healthy screen use in the safety of their homes. To be effective, digital literacy must remain politically neutral, helping to rebuild public trust and counteract the skepticism towards institutions that we are seeing. Finally, investing in offline spaces for youth, the so-called third places that we keep hearing about, is essential, offering environments where young people can engage, can express themselves, and build the confidence needed then to navigate digital spaces responsibly and advocate for their rights online. And with this note on digital literacy, I leave the floor to Ben to focus on the discussion that we had around the topic of AI.
Yeah, as you can imagine, AI is like also on young people's like top of mind. It's like a topic which is like meeting us in like many aspects in everyday life. So of course we had many debates on this topic, many different opinions, but there was like one main objective that we can agree on. And this objective is that we need to make AI practical, understandable, and accountable. This strategy, of course, is associated with digital literacy, or also called AI literacy. And we need to emphasize the need to learn in the matter of AI, because we believe it is important to enable citizens to have the ability to assess on their own if AI is like rather beneficial or rather risky, and to really make their own opinion about it. In that context, it's also very important to perform risk and impact assessments before actually employing AI, so you do know what the future might look like. At the same time, we definitely want to encourage the use of AI, for example, in governmental administrative tasks to ensure and increase efficiency and transparency. Moreover, we definitely want to support the adoption of AI in public and private sector, and we encourage all stakeholders to support the next generation of AI pioneers. And we were thinking this can take place in many different forms. Some of them could be mentorships, others could be funding or sandbox environments, where people can actually test out their ideas in a secure environment and make their dreams and ideas become reality. In this context, we also want to emphasize the need to strengthen the startup scene by providing more visibility to new projects, but also financial funding to new entrepreneurs. At the same time, we do acknowledge that there is a need to develop ethical frameworks on how we want to guide AI in the future. Additionally, we want to express our desire of young people to actively participate in developing a vision that is shaped in a collaborational way of how AI is going to affect our economies, our society, and culture. Moreover, from a different perspective, we also want to highlight the effect of AI on our physical world. It's not limited to only digital world. And we want to promote a collaboration of different stakeholders to make data centers smarter and more sustainable, providing energy, but also cost-efficient computing power. Also, we want to emphasize that stakeholders need to work together to make those sustainable infrastructures accommodate the increasing need for computing power. Also, to come to a conclusion about AI, we believe that creating awareness and transparency on the physical impact of AI and internet infrastructure plays a vital role in this collaboration.
We also recognize that human rights cannot be separated from this discussion, as it was reiterated multiple times in this room, and several pressing human rights concerns emerged also in our discussion. First, the right to privacy and data protection was a major focus. We believe that software developers and tech companies, as key stakeholders in digital governance, must be held accountable for this, which means building a secure infrastructure and complying with existing legislation like the GDPR that was also mentioned. When it comes to regulation, governments bear significant responsibility, particularly with automated decision-making and their use of sensitive data. It's essential that these systems are transparent and protect the rights of most importantly, vulnerable groups of our societies, such as migrants, asylum seekers, and LGBTQ+ communities, who often face disproportionate impacts of these usages. We also raised serious concerns about the use of surveillance technologies, including spyware. These tools threaten not only the right to privacy, but also freedom of expression and personal security. For example, journalists, activists, and human rights defenders are especially at risk, often leading to self-censorship or even suppression of dissent. Governments must be held accountable when these tools are used to silence opposition or to restrict civic space. Without transparency and oversight, surveillance may become a threat to democratic institutions and fundamental rights. The internet must not thus become a tool of control for manipulating public opinion or suppressing dissent. And finally, in the human rights realm, we emphasize also the need for greater resources to fight cybercrime. We believe that governments should not only invest in technical tools, but also continuous training for judges, prosecutors, law enforcement, and ensure effective enforcement, especially in cases of data breaches and misuse of sensitive information of citizens. At the same time, EU-level support and international cooperation are vital to addressing the global nature of these cyber threats.
To conclude, we already have heard many different opinions on how to innovate and how to ensure innovation. We, as the YOUthDIG, we call for a design of innovation ecosystems that strategically place inclusion and collaboration at the heart of digital development here in Europe. We identified smart regulations as the foundation to promote such digital innovation. What do we mean? Regulations must be updated. They have to be simplified and harmonized to support innovation rather than hinder it. Also, we promote the idea of an European innovation hub that decreases barriers to innovation and functions as a catalyst for digital development. how we imagine the Innovation Hub is to connect talents and grant access to a shared pool of resources, such as legal advice, IT infrastructure, and knowledge databases. We also want to emphasize very strongly that there is a necessity to guarantee universal accessibility to such innovation hubs, and we need the active involvement of young people in those hubs. We invite the Council of Europe as well as associated stakeholders to participate in these initiatives to ensure adherence to human rights and the rule of law principles. We suggest a rotating presidency for such hubs and a multi-stakeholder approach to ensure diversity of perspectives, backgrounds, and generations. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ben and Sabeta. So now on to the experts. You heard the messages, and would you please share what are the things that highlighted the conversation most? And in your opinion, could you elaborate a bit on what is the most interesting part?
Yes, thank you very much. Really a pleasure to be here. I used to be the youngest on the block. Not true anymore. And that's a lesson also for you guys. Make sure you also are there for next generations, because it doesn't stop here. I really appreciate the messaging. If you hear that, it's very thoughtful. It's very much based on the experience of the people who find their way today, right? And if you look around the world, we all realize we have a hard time dealing with a world that's changing rapidly. AI, as you rightly mentioned, but also information, what information can do to you, and how it can be abused as well. At the same time, you want to have the right to develop your opinion, as you rightly say. So you also want to have the freedom to use the media in a good way. Now, what we see around the world in this struggle is that in some countries, for instance, legislation is beginning to come like, oh, you shouldn't touch social media until you're 16. And I see they touch upon one of the problems, but they don't come with a solution. And what I find in your proposals, there's a lot of thinking about, so how can we make sure that you deal with it responsibly? How can we make sure that you grow with it while you're growing up? How can we make sure that you also use, and that's the next step, the systems are, as you said, practical, understandable, and accountable, right? I would add transparency, because without transparency, it's very difficult to hold anything accountable. And if you talk about AI, then it's also maybe time that we make sure there's some auditability of algorithms that are used. Are they fair? Are they just? Are they really pointed, as the chairman said at the beginning in his speech? So overall, really a very good opinion of it. I think it's crucial for us all to listen to this and realize that there may be solutions towards the future that may not come from our traditional way of thinking, but from a more open way of thinking of the younger people today.
Thank you very much, and it's a privilege to be here. So thank you for having me at this intergenerational dialogue. And as Martin, I used to be like the youngest in the room many years ago, and now it's interesting to be here speaking as the older peer. And I want to highlight one thing that caught my eye, and which I was delighted to read. Most of the solutions you propose hint and sometimes say even directly that the negative externalities of innovation, of various applications, of biases, of content moderation, of protecting youth online cannot be solved only with technology or only with regulating network. So you profoundly speak about the need for online solutions. And every part of your messages recognizes the societal context of this problem. And I think this is extremely important. This helicopter view, this broader understanding is extremely important. Another aspect that caught my eye is actually, it's not what is there, but what was missing for me, maybe for my generation, who remembers the life without the internet. And I think that what is absent is the recognition that all these technologies rely on the network, which is globally connected and interoperable. And while solving all these negative externalities and technological and societal problems, while trying to foster innovation and stakeholder participation in this, and youth participation in this, because you are the new generation, we need to preserve those critical properties that make internet such a unique network that actually enables all this innovation. So strict, like kind of speaking in a less abstract way, you can have a technological or regulatory solution to shut internet for child abusers, but you might end with an unintended consequence of shutting the internet or severely damaging and harming it. And one of the examples I see when you speak about smart regulation and the need to involve technical experts in creation of innovative solutions, I think it's a bit broader. Whatever we do to regulate, we need to remember that we have to preserve the interoperability and the global connectivity of the internet. And this is why we have to consult the technical community. So it's not a criticism, but I just want to make sure that none of you, while crafting these messages, while going further in this amazing world of internet governance, will take the network for granted. Thank you.
Maybe if I can directly add on it, because I think you touched a very important point with what you mentioned about us not thinking about the network of the network. And I think most of us have grown up with the internet just being there. Like it was just a condition that was given, and I cannot remember a time where internet was not existing. And I mean, this problem is just going to be more intensified in the future. People will grow up with AI just being there and don't understand or cannot reflect on a time where AI was not existing. So I think the point you're raising is very important. And for me, the YOUthDIG so far and the intergenerational dialogue, speaking with senior experts, was really an eye-opening experience in this regard, because you have the experience, you have the knowledge about this like past times, which we are lacking. And I think young people really can learn from that point of view.
Oh, very good point.
Yes,
That
yes.
I can, we focus on the unique addressing system, and we try to make that safer and safer because the internet wasn't built to be safe in the old place. And it works. And I'm very happy to hear that the new generation takes that for granted. There's a lot of work behind it, but good point, Tanya.
I also agree that it's probably good, no, it's good that new generation takes internet for granted, exactly because it means that it works. Like you open the tap and the water is running, like you press the switch and electricity is here, so you don't think how it works exactly because it works. But once this youth and new generation will grow into the generation of policymakers, this is where I don't want you to take internet for granted anymore.
If anybody would like to add something more? If not, then I would pose another question. So which of these topics do you consider the most challenging in addressing? And this is maybe a broader, if anybody would like to start.
I have a clarifying question. The topics that are outlined in the messages, right?
Yes.
Yes. So I see, to me, one of the most challenging topics there is what you frame as smart regulation. For several reasons. The first one I highlighted already, because if we're talking about smart regulation and when we're trying to make smart regulation, we need to avoid unintended consequences. We need to analyze impact of regulatory tools on open, globally connected, secure and trustworthy internet. And I think that this is where it is challenging. Recognizing it, making these impact assessments less challenging than just recognizing that this regulation might have very unintended consequences. Another challenging topic I saw in the list of topics in privacy and security and anything related to crime. And there was one aspect which I would strongly suggest to consider is the encryption aspect. Because if we talk about law enforcement, if we talk about investigation, if we talk about privacy, there are so many debates that frame it as a trade-off, right? Let's create a backdoor to encryption. Let's trade off security and privacy. We have to realize that these are not mutually exclusive. And again, it goes back to my first point. By creating solutions that might solve temporarily the problem of crime and security, we might come up with a set of solutions like encryption backdoor that will endanger all the users of the internet, safety of all the users. So these are the topics I find the most challenging, how we make the new regulation and also how we ensure security and privacy of the network. The first one, because of the multitude of regulations coming and the need to see how they impact. And the second one, just because we have this negative trade-off debate which persists and we are going in circles. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much for your comments and your response. Coming from a political science background and human rights, I think the topics that I find the most challenging are the ones related to precisely human rights. And I think the most challenging part is trying to get everyone at the table and to balance everyone's interests, meaning also the private sector, the governments, the young people, the intergenerational dialogue that we were mentioning here, because we all do want to create a better and safer experience for everyone on the internet and also support innovation. But this balancing of this interest is what I see the most challenging, if there is not the willingness to compromise or the willingness to listen to the needs of the other side. And if I may, in response to also the first remark, there was actually one point where we were thinking of an offline solution to online problems, and we all were thinking of these third spaces because we, like Ben mentioned, we grew up with the internet, with our phones, etc. And even ourselves, we noticed the need to maybe have a moment of detachment, and we think that would also like it would also help with increasing confidence, especially in young people, into being more social, more extroverted again, because it's very easy to go into your own bubble. The internet it can be a safe place, can be a dangerous place, but it can feel safe. So I think that was one moment where we kind of understood the importance of detachment as well. But it was very, very interesting that you noticed that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's funny because one of your suggestions was to have offline spaces. How many of you do have offline spaces still today? Well, if I sleep, I'm not, but that doesn't count. It's a conscious choice for not being connected all the time, which is a weird concept, but it's a new concept. So that's one important thing. I think we're building the internet of tomorrow today and the services on it. And AI and IoT are going to make it less and less visible. You said, well, the internet always worked. Why should I worry about it? The internet of tomorrow will work too, and you may not notice. So it's very important that we build it well today and take into account the consequences of certain choices that we make. One that AI is to serve human rather than to take over. Things like that are important things to build in from the outset before it's too late. The other thing that may be also experienced, but a little bit, is harmonization of law, of legal framework is very difficult around the world, particularly because you have different types of laws. And the two most known ones are, of course, common law and civil law. Now, we see that also how that works out in the privacy space. And I think if you look to how privacy law is developing around the world, it's a good precursor to help us understand how we can further develop AI regulations and safety thinking on that. And just a finding that we find over the years is that how would it be if you have a space with values-based civil law backed by a common-based law that you're still responsible for harms, which means that you give some guidance, you also create some space. So something in between might be good. But one world is beyond our own direct experiences, and that is so difficult to realize all the time that we progress on this. But other than that, wow.
Okay, so since we're running out of time, I would go on to one final question and maybe keep it a bit short and sweet. So keeping with the theme of intergenerational dialogue, I would say, YOUthDIG members, do you have any advice you would give to the experts? And vice versa, experts, would you give any advice to the YOUthDIG members when it comes to the future of the internet?
Okay, so then I'll start. I think what we really noticed through our conversations is that there is a real need for ensuring that the internet remains a space that can be trusted by everyone, regardless of their background. And I think that's one important thing that we've noticed in discussions independent of the topic that reoccurred. And yeah, that's a message I really want to emphasize, even though I think it's an objective that we all have to work in and collaborate for.
And adding to that, because I do share very much Ben's point, I think it is very important to not allow the instrumentalization of the internet and of these spaces, and also of our own data, which are now resources for private companies, etc. And also, I would like to cite one of the previous speakers that said there cannot be innovation without inclusion. So I think that is also very important.
Excellent. I would say in terms of to the new generation, it sounds odd, right?
It does.
But is stay involved and keep on going. We are interested, the people are interested, and you have new insights that we hadn't thought of. So stay involved. That's one thing that we also see in ICANN in the strategic plan for the coming 5 years. It's explicitly identified that we also want to welcome next generations in our environment because we know we need to continue to evolve. And the last thing is, if you think of this future, think from a global perspective that it's one world we share, and think ahead, like where you want to go, rather than focus on what other parts of the world may not do to your liking. It's about where do we need to get to. And by the way, don't trust the internet too much. It would be great if we can trust it, but never trust it fully, okay?
I know that I'm not supposed to counter some of the Martin's points, so we will leave it for another conversation. I would say, when you deal today proactively trying to address the problems of tomorrow, the digital problems of tomorrow, just make sure that you have internet tomorrow, that you have this open, interoperable, globally connected network, that you preserve it as a tool that make tomorrow, that make people's life better tomorrow as it makes it today. So just do not take it for granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A big round of applause for our speakers here. Thank you so much in participating, and I would like to give the floor back to Nadia.
Thank you very much. And also thank you very much, Daniel, for moderating this session. I'm very pleased to have been able to introduce this intergenerational dialogue because it's only the beginning. We are only here at the opening ceremony. An intergenerational dialogue does not have to end here. We are here with 30 young people who are interested in talking to you, share their ideas, and I hope that you will allow them to join your conversations, not only for them to contribute, but also to learn, to share, and to exchange perspectives. And I'm so glad to have the opportunity to meet a lot of people here at EuroDIG. EuroDIG is a community where we come together and we make a lot of friends along the way.